Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Between Sundays. Pastor, it's good to see you.
Hey, it's so good to see you.
Good to be with you.
Yep.
How was your weekend?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thankful. Just great church, had a little pickleball fun. So, yeah, great weekend.
That's kind of like
Great friendships, fellowship.
Is that the two ingredients to a great weekend? Great church and great pickleball?
That's not a bad recipe right there.
Yeah.
That works. Seriously, that's a win-win.
Yeah. I feel like pickleball is like this growing passion in our church.
Mm-hmm.
Last night we had like 75 people at the pickleball courts. I think the interns thought it was like 75, but I don't think it was actually that many.
About 15.
15 maybe.
Yeah.
But we had a great time. And so pickleball, we have a guest today on the podcast that will officially introduce. You'll use your spiritual gift of guest introduction in a moment. But he came out and played some pickleball too, which was a lot of fun. One of the things that we are doing with all of our guest speakers is part of the requirement is they have to preach and they have to play pickleball with us at least once. And so it's sort of an evangelistic effort on our part. Would
Absolutely.
you say that?
Yeah, we're just helping them be better, them.
Right.
Yeah, we're contributing. This is a two-way street. They bless us. We're so grateful. They really do make a difference. But hopefully we be a blessing to them too.
Yeah, I think so. And so we'll hear from this great guest here in a moment. As a matter of fact, actually, would you just, because I've got some questions I want to just shoot. Would you just introduce our guest?
This is going to be a fascinating conversation.
Yeah.
And again, put your seatbelt on. This is going to be something that I think is going to be a blessing to you. But we're so privileged to have with us Brother Devin Akers.
Woo!
All the way, give it up for Brother Akers, all the way from Raleigh, North Carolina. Pastors a great church called Stello, just a church that's on the edge of the Apostolic movement. And again, he's a church planter, which again, great props to that. And the heart for people. He was our camp meeting speaker. He's also a professional counselor, great guy. And a beginner pickleball player, so you got to throw that in the resume as well. But Brother Akers, what a privilege to have you. Thank you for being here.
Oh man, it's such an honor to be here. And for those that are listening, I just want everybody to know that this sweet Pastor Zuniga that you hear on this podcast is a fierce competitor on the pickleball court.
Yes.
That even with his incredible talent, couldn't bring home the win if I was on his team.
Well, Pastor did emphasize beginner pickleball.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Beginner pastor, beginner preacher,
Startup,
novice,
startup preacher.
This would all be accurate.
So terrible. Well, hey, just a couple of quick questions for you, Devin, before we get started into the real big topics that we're going to talk about today. Coffee or sweet tea?
Oh, coffee.
Okay, coffee or sweet tea. You say coffee. Mountains or beach?
Oh man, that's so difficult. My wife would say beach, and so if we're taking the family and the kids, it has to be beach. But there is a part of me that personally just enjoys how chill and relaxed the mountains can be.
Yeah, same. Early bird or night owl?
I've kind of disciplined myself into being more of an early bird, but I think naturally I might be a night owl. I just don't love what it does productively for me. So I guess early bird.
Yeah.
Okay,
but this is my last one. Okay, we're in Nashville, right? Mm-hmm. So lots of great barbecue, but you're from North Carolina.
Yeah.
So I guess two questions. Number one, would you rather have Nashville barbecue or North Carolina barbecue?
It's just a really terrible question, and you knew it because you're looking at me smiling, because people don't know this, but North Carolina is a vinegar-based barbecue with a primarily pulled pork. And so if you're from North Carolina, you get this craving for it. But if you've never had it and you eat it in your adult years for the first time, you're like, why? Why do you guys ruin barbecue? But yeah, I guess if we were choosing today, since we're in Nashville, I'll say Nashville.
That feels great.
That feels right.
What would you say the best barbecue in North Carolina is?
The best barbecue in North Carolina is a place that serves Nashville barbecue. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. I'm just kidding. I don't know. There's a place called Bill's over kind of if you go east towards the coast in Wilson. They literally do the pig picking, every single buffet serving, and so you go right up. You actually take the tongs, pull out the barbecue. It's a pretty cool experience. So very North Carolina.
That's awesome. Okay, I lied. I do have one more question. Okay. You said something fairly controversial at camp meeting about a really popular worship song right now. And so the question I was going to ask you is what your favorite worship song is. But can you just, for those that did not hear your very controversial take on that worship song, can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I was making a joke that I feel like I'm too young to not be enjoying like younger worship. You know, like whenever the students are, or even just at our church, we'll do a song, and then I find myself, if I'm just being completely honest, I'm like, I don't like this song. I'll get halfway through it, and I've been internally wrestling with, you have to like every worship song. And so they were singing that song, "What a God." So, what a God, what a God. And I'm just like, I don't like this song. And so I was in the middle of the worship service, just like, I don't like this song, and everybody loves this song.
Yeah.
And bro, the Lord just like, the Spirit just like absolutely, I'm not joking, this happened. By the end of the song, I was just crying. I had my hands in the air. This is like the third time they sang it. And finally, repenting, I guess. I promise you, it's like #1 worship song on my Spotify playlist right now that I listen to. And I listen to the extended version, so it's like 12 minutes.
That's a commitment.
It's like uncut.
He's all in.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm all in. What a God.
Yeah, what a God.
What a God.
Look what the Lord has done.
Exactly.
We would call that a late adapter.
Yeah.
Like you were a late adapter on
dude.
that song. What a
Yeah.
God.
Pretty soon I'm going to be getting into the Gaither vocal band too. They're my next. I think it's adopter. You
It's
say
what?
Adapter?
Late adapter?
I thought it was adopter.
Oh, that's a great point. We say late adapter.
Yeah, I say late adapter, but
I should probably learn to read. It's probably adapter.
Well, you're the professional here.
Yeah.
You're credentialed up. So I
Yeah.
would say from now on, I'm saying late adopter.
Yeah. Let's Google it. No.
Yeah.
Let's chat GPT.
Hey, there you go. Speaking of, Pastor, why don't you just get us
Yeah.
into the actual topics that we want to talk about
so
today?
again, absolutely. And thank you for the nuances and the great answers and great questions. Honestly, the complexity of the faith journey that we're on in the season that we live in as church leaders, being helpful to people that are listening to this podcast, people that are walking this journey. And there's just so many nuances to this. But the reality is, there are so many people that are trying to bridge the gap of the reality of this world we live in with AI and a lot of things at our fingertips. Let me just set the table here for a little bit, because there are people that now go to AI for almost everything emotionally they need. Again, it's not just like Google. It's not like I'm just trying to get information or just trying to fact find here. That there is an emotional connection. There's stories out there that there are people that are marrying their chat GPT. You know, they have names for them.
Sure.
There is an emotional attachment. Like if we ever had an outage, an electrical outage, there's going to be an issue, right?
That's
Like
right.
I can't talk to my spouse or my significant other. And again, you traffic in this world. Again, you're a professional counselor. You see the connection, the growing connection, I would think. The question for you really is just how do people begin to manage? Again, I know there are really some, there's some benefits to this. Again, there's a lot of benefits. I use ChatGPT when I'm doing some research, when I'm trying to prepare for talks, messages, and all of that. There's also some danger there. I'd love for you to just kind of paint some handrails in this reality that we're living in.
Yeah. So first off, I would just say that I don't feel proficient. I'm not sure anybody feels 100% proficient because it's such a new and emerging, technology, if you want to call it that. But you're exactly right, especially with the emotional implications. And in full disclosure, I use Chat GPT every single day. I even recently went to the pro version. I was doing some editing for something I was sending to PPH, actually, and I was on a time crunch, and I just needed it to consolidate, and I hit my limit, and I was like, dude, I have to get this done. And I've not looked back.
Right.
Pushed him over.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know how I lived without this.
Right.
Yeah. So, but recently I heard someone was talking about this, and forgive me for not remembering who the professional was that was talking about this, but they were making the point that the difference between us sitting here as men who are in adulthood versus kids is that we're not digital natives, in that we watched this technology emerge onto the scene.
Right.
We were a part of the grassroots of it, and we saw it develop out. But the people that will have to do the most work and be the most, and I say this in a healthy way, fearful of this in a healthy way, are the kids that have never lived life without AI. Because what we know about AI, ChatGPT, is that it's not giving us an unfiltered, unbiased opinion, is that the models that we create with AI, we dictate. So we dictate the values, we dictate the outcomes. I could tell ChatGPT, here's the filters that I want you to respond with for the rest of my time when we talk. Call me this. Make sure that you look through the lens of this political ideology. Make sure that you use these words and don't ever disagree with me. Well, I mean, you'd want to talk about emotional attachment.
Right.
You can't ask a human being to do that. And so you can imagine as this develops out and becomes more and more complex and more advanced, that if you had never lived a life without it, and imagine if you could just impose the engine of AI, if you will, into something besides just a phone. Maybe it is something that has a little bit more of a face to it. And what I mean by that is something that, imagine a teddy bear with AI in it that you can talk to as a kid. Just a random thought there. That is emotionally shaping in very early developmental years. And so I think that as families, as individuals, it's wonderful to see a technology advance our society forward. And there's going to be a lot of amazing things from it. But we do have to be honest and say, man, this will shape the reality of our families and of our children.
Yeah, the reality that you're talking about, again, people are throwing questions and scenarios, their life problems at this game, and getting some feedback here, maybe not even preparing the AI to filter out, just, again, point blank here, give me your best guess, give me your best advice here. And where I fear is that, again, it becomes the teacher, the mentor, where Scripture reminds us that we need to know them that labor among you, right? Yeah. You see the fruit of their life. You can see their example. And yet, again, we're going to life-altering decisions and looking for advice from something that you really don't even know the depth of that. There's concern there. There's actually, again, problems like you can get into emotional affairs, you can get bad advice, you can get even bad faith advice or even religious advice, okay? And these are our realities as church leaders. So trying to help people in our church, okay, wanting to help people. Listen, we don't want you to be afraid of that. We're not putting our head in the sand and saying, okay, we're denying this reality. That's right. We understand God gives us wisdom. God gives us a mind. And also, I think God gives us experiences that help us in these new technologies. Yes. Okay. So give me a scenario where you have seen somebody maybe kind of dabble with AI in a not healthy way.
But yeah, I think it's a great question. I mean, I think personally, I full disclosure here, when ChatGPT specifically was first kind of becoming a thing a couple of years ago, I had a Christmas message that I was preaching and I needed an illustration. And so I didn't, of course, present the illustration in any kind of false way. And what I mean by that is pretending that it was real. I told the people before I read, this is a scenario that was created, I may not have used AI, told them it was from that, but I didn't say it was a real story, quote unquote. But ChatGPT actually created a scenario that I was able to read that was a reinforcement. And I was just trying to figure it out. We're in the developmental stage. How do I want to use this? I walked away from that pulpit that day and told myself, I'm never doing that again. It didn't feel right. So I felt like it impacted me in an unhealthy way. And I even got feedback from my father who was in the crowd that day. Now, he didn't raise any red flags and go, my God, you crossed lines today. But he told me it felt hollow.
Wow.
And I thought, man, that's exactly right. Now, again, I don't fault myself. Like, I didn't hit an altar of repentance, go, my God, I'm a terrible person. Yeah. We're just trying to figure out how to use this. Yeah. Another example very quickly is I have some text messages with people that I've known for years, even leaders that I've known for years. And the way that I've communicated with them through the years has been a particular way. Well, now I can tell with a few of them that they're using AI heavily to edit their text message conversations back and forth with me. Now, there's some reasons for that. Maybe there's some developmental, issues. Let's say you have dyslexia, right? And now you've got the tool of AI. Man, what an incredible development. Now you can send your texts on the fly, but bro, you don't sound like the same person. So I think there's a tension to be managed. I hope those examples make sense.
I love the conversation because I do think, we're sitting around a table talking about this our church is absolutely wondering what are pastors' takes, what are leaders' takes, what's your take on this? It's funny that you mentioned the text message. I'm in a group text with some guys, and it's just a bunch of guys from the church here. And sometimes there's just some friendly banter that happens, right? How guys will just jab at each other. Well, I have used ChatGPT to come up with some fun banter back. And there's one guy in the group text, and I'll tell you, it's Landon Gott. He's like, well, Billy's using AI again.
Got him.
He can see because it's not. He knows me. He knows that. Okay, first of all, Billy's not smart enough to come up with this type of banter.
Not that quick.
I'm not that quick. It's like in 5 seconds, I have like a full page of all the rebuttals against this one guy's argument. So I think there's a balance.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we have to come in and talk about this, because the truth is that it is a powerful tool, specifically ChatGPT. We use it. I mean, I use it every day. We use it all the time. I think there's a balance. You even brought up a scenario that I can relate to about, going to AI about, a scenario that was happening in our world and just seeing, right?
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, my mind was blown at what I perceived as the accuracy of how it, I hate to even use the word advised, but essentially
of course,
gave advice. And honestly, it opened my eyes to things that I couldn't even have seen on my own.
Absolutely. That
I would have probably sat across from someone and after conversation had that. So I see the danger in that. I also see the balance of that is I think there is a help to that.
Of course.
If you are able to do both. I think this is just my opinion. The danger is that if AI replaces human in the multitude of counselors, there's safety, as Scripture says. Yeah. I don't think you can just go to AI as your counselor. I think there are things that you can benefit from it, but I also see the conversation that we're having is there's also a danger to that.
Can I add to that? Because I totally agree. Because what I've seen is that AI gives you the ability to be wrong in the most confident way. Meaning, if you already come in, let's just say doctrinally.
Yeah.
Doctrinally, tell me why X, Y, and Z is right or wrong. It builds the most convincing case for whatever your bias is.
Yeah.
So if you're going to use it, you might want to use it in the opposite way. Use it to argue with you if you're trying to become a critical thinker. Yeah. Which, by the way, in this, I think that's really in one way you could boil it down to that pillar, is that we're going to have members of our churches who are themselves students of the Word.
Yes.
They're the theologians.
Right.
And the way that you do that well in rightly dividing the Word of God, if you're going to use AI as a tool, is you better make sure that it's not just an echo chamber, because you can create the AI echo chamber in a way that is just unsafe, unhealthy.
For sure.
So let it sharpen, but at the same time, what you said about human interaction, let that be the foundation. Let the tool be used. It's a good resource. It's a tool, but if you flip that and it becomes the foundation itself, you're going to be in dangerous waters.
Yeah, that's my fear. Is I think we're replacing the human connection, human wisdom, with, again, technology, okay? And again, I think I put in a situation that I was just contemplating financially, so I threw in all the scenarios to AI, and it spit out some answers, and I thought, man, that's pretty solid, okay? That just kind of confirmed what I'm thinking, kind of other advice I'm getting, but, I never would dream of putting a scenario into AI and trying to get that. That's the beauty of it. Sure. The other danger of that is when you're emotionally getting connected to that, and it's replacing that human connection, which I don't think AI could ever do. The other part that I'm concerned with is, you can go to AI for biblical knowledge. I'll give you an example of that. So forever and a day, I don't know where I got this, but I thought the verse where it says, as a deer panteth after the water brook, so doth my soul panteth after you, O God. Like in my mind, I don't know where I got this, but in most people's mind, I think that was David. Like David wrote that. Like it makes sense. David would be the guy that kind of would write something like that. Yeah. So I just wanted to fact check myself, and I threw that in AI, and come to find out that's not David. Okay, that's not David. Wow. That's the sons of Korah.
Wow.
Okay. And man, that just kind of paused me. Like, where would I even get the information that would be David, right? So my challenge with that is that I don't think AI can give you information. I don't think it can give you revelation. And the way that our spirit is developed, our theology is sometimes it's revelation. God reveals it to you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
God reveals. It's not just information, it's revelation that you need. And so there's a danger. If it's just trying to get whatever AI can give you, it may not be theologically correct.
That's so good. And what I'll add to that too, not to pivot the conversation too much, but from the counselor's perspective. Okay. So when I look at AI, you're talking about using it as a tool and a resource, or what we've been talking about is theological questions, which what a great example with the sons of Korah. I'll pretend like I didn't think it was David as well.
Did you think it was David? No,
of course I did.
I mean,
of course I did. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. In fact, I'll probably forget and an hour from now still think it's David. But
it's just the beginner in all of this.
Exactly. But what I've noticed too, from the counselor's perspective, you talk about human interaction. There is a potential for AI to play a huge role in mental health moving forward. Specifically, think about suicidality. Someone who's thinking about taking their own life, and then having within arm's length of you your phone, which, by the way, this is vapor technology is what they call it, meaning that it used to be, if you think about water, used to be the ice block or, the water in a cup. You had to go to your computer to actually open it up, to actually, but now we literally sleep with this with a foot from our head, which is a wild thing to think. So a foot from you at any given moment is going to be something that can talk to you. And now that we have AI, it's something that can speak. Well, if you have suicidality, maybe the AI is telling you all of the affirming things that you need to hear of why you shouldn't take your own life. That's really a beautiful thing because it's just such a quick affirmation of life. I love that idea. But when you talk about the complexity of family dynamics, decision-making, let me tell you when you can find out very quickly that AI is something that is myopic in certain ways. It doesn't have the complexity we think it does. Is ask it to be funny. Have you seen this? If you try to get AI to be humorous, you immediately realize it has lost the human touch. If you asked it to write, for instance, let's say you needed to do a 5-minute bit, so to speak, and you were going to do some comedic talk. AI is not funny, not even close to funny. Why is that? Because humor is us touching the line of what is a little irreverent, and I say that in a healthy way. That type of minutia is not, at this point, it's not found in AI. AI can't figure humor out. It's not funny at all. Now, it may be able to give you some jabs and like you were talking about, but actual humor is not there. I think that could be used as a parallel to the complexity of family situations, of issues that you're going through. And if you become overly reliant on something like this, and you lose the human touch and that counseling wisdom that you find, we're going to actually be worse off. And so I just think it's really important that we continue to foster conversations. And that's why I think podcasts like this are incredibly vital.
Would you, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. You've touched on this a moment, but loneliness, okay? Loneliness is truly an epidemic. I mean, there's a lot of research. There's a lot of things that are coming out now just expressing the truth that people are lonely, okay? There is a disconnection of relationships. There's a disconnection of families. There's a dysfunction in, again, maybe even self-awareness. There is a loneliness about the life that we are, so many things around us, and yet there is a hollowness in us, okay? This is why I think AI is growing in that emotional era or realm, okay? Because people can, again, invest, they can ask questions, they can have conversations, they can dialogue, all of those things that feed into the loneliness. Again, this is not human connection. And so this is a growing issue in churches. It's a growing issue in relationships. And so I'd love to hear your take on just the reality, maybe what you're experiencing, maybe what people are coming to you with, and when you're diagnosing them or having conversation, you recognize there's something that is breaking in their life and it's causing loneliness. Any thoughts?
Oh, yeah. So first of all, what a great observation. And it's so true. And I think the root of that is that we have to remember that there is anxiety naturally in what we would call any kind of social connection. So anxiety, the most diagnosed anxiety, besides just general anxiety disorder, is social anxiety. Yeah. Social anxiety is through the roof. And so the more reliant we become on any technology, whether it's AI, online video gaming, and the less, person-to-person interaction we're having, the higher likelihood that we have of that anxiety developing. And two couple of principles here. Number one is avoidance reinforces fear. Avoidance reinforces fear. That is a absolute just pillar that you learn in a therapeutic setting. And so what we want to do, and you've heard of exposure therapy, right? Where if you're afraid of water, what we're going to start with is we're going to show you a picture of water. We're going to see if you can dip your toe in water. Eventually, what we're going to have you is we're going to have you in the deep end. We're not just going to throw you in the deep end, because what that's going to do is it's going to reinforce fear. So what I think with really what we're talking about right now is there's a fear and an anxiety that is actually human and innate, and in some ways a good thing, right? Imagine if you didn't have any anxiety. You would be in a lot of trouble in your life, because you would get yourself into situations that could literally cause you a great amount of harm. But if you have too much anxiety in your life, then you're avoiding things that in the long run will have some of the greatest outcomes and the greatest value. Y and Z, relationships, marriage, all of those things. And so what I would say is, in what we're talking about right now, in some ways, is that we're going to have to get people to not use these technologies in a codependent way.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking about a codependency where this has become a crutch. So we've got to get students, and by the way, this is another reason outside of just theology and good Bible teaching that I believe in the local church. Your youth group matters. Sending your kids to the next student gathering matters. Last night, being out there at pickleball, not everybody was an extrovert. There's a lot of introverts out there
for sure,
that were naturally introverted. But why did they go out? Because there's value in the community. There's value in being connected. And if I could say anything to the folks from GPC or whoever's listening to this, is the remedy for this is getting connected to your local church. At least a huge part of the remedy is getting connected to the people of God. The community is so, so vital.
Yeah.
Amen.
You mean to tell you that one of the risks I see with this from the church's perspective, because I think, and you're hitting on this a little bit, we've seen this in the past. Insert some type of new technology that is leveraged, or the trajectory of it seems damaging, right? Let's say television, right? So at times, what the church will do is it'll draw a hard line and say no, like no television, without really ever exploring the principle of how to teach people to use the tool, the technology.
Yeah,
social media, right? The things that we're talking about, the AI produces, is creating the social stuff. We've been on that pathway for a long time. Social media, that's the converse. When I was a youth pastor, it was like social media is like creating loneliness, like this false idea of connection, right?
Yeah.
So, and some people say, okay, because of that, absolutely no social media, right?
Yeah.
Instead of teaching how to have the discipline side of the technology. And my concern is now we're faced with an entirely new technology that the truth is, it can be pretty scary. Like the things that you read, I'm listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
I'm falling in love with this technology so fast that I'm like, slow down.
Yeah.
I told Pastor the other day, I'm intentionally listening to podcasts and reading blogs that are like, one I listened to recently said, AI is going to kill all of us. And the dude was legit. Like he was serious.
Yeah.
Like the crowd's laughing. He's like, no, seriously, you're all going to die because of AI. It was like, so,
and we're laughing now.
yeah, like we're laughing at it.
Yeah, that's funny.
And then he was like, and here's how he ended it. He's like, you'll know that it's real when you're all dead.
Exactly.
And he like drops the mic. But this, I think the church, the voice of the church, the voice of pastors, the voice of leaders, whether it's at Stello, whether it's at GPC, we can't come. First of all, I don't believe we're called to a fearful response. We have enough scripture about that. I think there has to be a balanced approach to it. I think we have to teach principles about this. It's not going away. I heard somebody say the future always wins. If you're going to fight the future, you're going to lose every time.
Yeah.
Our congregation is full of people who are every day getting more and more on board with AI, with ChatGPT. They're leveraging it for all kinds of great things. We have to strike the balance and teach the principle, which I feel like is what this conversation is. I hope no one listens to this conversation and thinks that the three of us are saying AI is bad, do not use it. I would be a hypocrite if I said that. I think the important voice that we have is what we're saying. You have to balance that out. Go play pickleball with people to get social interaction. Go talk to somebody over coffee about the scenario that you put a prompt into ChatGPT. Don't just take that as gospel truth. Don't just type in scenarios into ChatGPT or biblical theological questions. Open the Word of God and go there. It's a resource, it's a tool, but it's not the end all, right? So that's probably my concern that I'm hearing from some of the church is AI bad.
Yeah.
Don't use it. Don't leverage it. And that is such a turnoff, if I'm being honest. That is an old approach I think that I've seen the church take, that people are going to look at that and say, what?
Yeah.
Right? Wow.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think to your point, you said the future always wins. It's true. And if you were to take that approach, all it's going to do is send people in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And like you said, it makes you a hypocrite because at the end of the day, I'm actually incredibly excited about what this could be leveraged for in terms of digital discipleship and other outlets. I mean, even there's a good chance you'll probably throw this podcast in something that has an AI, software that will put things, it'll automatically put the vocals where they need to be. It's a great technology, but you're exactly right. You have to harness it and use it in the right way. So I couldn't agree more.
So give me a couple handrails for a good use, a good perspective of AI.
Yeah. So for me, I think first off, it's so funny. My Chat GPT knows I'm a oneness apostolic. It cracks me up. I'll ask it a question, and every once in a while, it'll say something about that. Or like recently, I had a friend who lost their mom, and I literally asked ChatGPT, recently lost my mother, and that's how I started it. And I asked it some questions about how to, create anyway, without going too far into it. 3 days later, it said to me, I know you recently lost your mother. And I was like, oh my God, it remembers that Wow. So I think the first guardrail for me, just when I'm thinking through that lens, is that I don't become too emotionally attached to it, right? Like,
Amen.
Because it knows, it obviously can remember and can know where you're at, where your family's at. And so, not getting too attached to it. I think secondly, for me, is not overusing it, overutilizing it. And that's been, I think, one of the guardrails I've had to put into my life is like, okay, for instance, with sermon writing, when I first started, I was trying to figure it out. What's the tension here? I'll throw every single sermon I put in ChatGPT, every single one. And some people will go, my goodness, you shouldn't do that. Listen, here's what I ask. I'll ask questions like this. Are there any theological errors in this? Because I want to know. Fight me if there's something wrong on this. Check me. Was it the sons of Korah? Not David.
Yeah.
It's a great tool.
Yeah.
Or I'll ask it this: how would you organize this sermon point wise? Which points would you put in certain order so that it's the most dynamic? And it'll reorganize it for me, and it might give me something to think about.
Yeah.
Or I'll go, no, I don't feel that.
Yeah.
So I have autonomy from it because there's times that I'm like, I don't feel that. That's
Right.
not what I feel in my spirit to share first, second, or third. Thanks for the perspective. So those are a couple of guardrails, is, making sure you have autonomy from it, making sure that you're not overusing it, making sure that you can walk away from it at any point. And I know that's sort of simple ones.
No, I think it's helpful. Like someone put it like this, AI is an assistant, not a replacement, right? It just kind of helps, but you're not using it to replace something.
Yeah.
And those are great examples of how you're letting it assist you in your presentation, in your talks, in your preaching, in your messages. And I think those are healthy, bouncing ideas, concepts off of it.
Yeah.
But when you go to replace something,
That's so good.
Okay, you're replacing conversations with spouses, children, coworkers. I think there's a danger there as well.
Yeah, I love that. Again, I've heard preachers, people like, how dare you with sermon. I love that you're saying you put your sermons in there. I was telling Pastor recently, I'll upload a sermon and I'll ask it the theological question, like, are there any, biblical errors? One of my favorite questions to ask is, how would this message be received from an unchurched person?
Oh, that's good.
That's a great one.
And I'm telling you, it has been a little bit convicting at times at how churchy my sermons are.
Yeah.
And it sounds so weird to say this, but it has opened my eyes to and given me, like, you said this, you may want to rephrase it this for someone who doesn't have a church background. So I love the language you just used. It's an assistant, not a replacement.
Yeah.
I heard someone say AI has knowledge but no wisdom. It has knowledge but no
really
wisdom.
good.
And so I think what I'm hearing in this conversation is, it's not, and I hope everyone's hearing, it's not no, but you need to strike a balance between using it and still having other resources, other human interaction. So I love the AI conversation.
Yeah.
We talked with Devin. There's so many different directions we can go with this podcast. I do think I would feel a little remiss if we didn't just hit on some of what he's doing in North Carolina. Devin, you travel a lot. You preach all over our movement, right? And people are like, I don't even know what that means. That's such a church. AI would be like, can you just rephrase that? You are an itinerant preacher all over our organization.
Oh my God.
You get to travel a lot, preach in different places.
Yeah.
The conversation that I see you involved in a lot is in church planning, and rightfully so. I think you are you've done such a great job in North Carolina with Stello, and it's genuinely, when I talk to other church planners, and honestly, here in conversations at this table,
we can all learn.
Stello comes up regularly, and so I guess the question, just give a little bit about what you're doing in North Carolina. Some people may not know that's listening. Just what do you have going on at Stello?
Well, I appreciate that. I feel very honored by that introduction. The truth is, it's so funny. I hear those types of things. I'm like, boy, if you could see it up close, it doesn't feel that way at all. It feels like, it's
all work.
It's all work. Yeah. It also, how like your car, you're like, oh, I got to get new tires on it. Then you like look up and you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't changed the oil. And then you get the oil change and you're like, boy, the back windshield wiper is just like really needing. That's what it feels like. And so which again, that's no reflection on the incredible people that make up the church. It's just the utility of church planting and pastoring and doing what we do. And so I appreciate that a lot. And I would say this, just to give some background. In 2018, we existed 18 months, and then COVID hit. And one of the principles of our church when we began was to launch large, meaning, there's multiple ways to plant a church. Some people kind of start with a storefront or maybe a small group in a living room Bible study setting, and all of those are valid. One of the things we wanted to do was actually do about a year to 2 years worth of preparation before we even had our first service, meaning we were building funds, we were building a team, and then we wanted to, once we started having Sunday to Sunday church, there was just an infrastructure that God had helped us build up. And so we met for 18 months in a portable setting. We set up and tear down every week, but we do that as efficiently as I think you can just about do that. And then, the school that we were meeting in and whatnot, all of a sudden was just shut down. And so God just reinvented us spiritually in that time as a leader. It was a make or break moment. In fact, that was the time that I decided to personally go back and finish the graduate degree in licensed counseling.
Wow.
Because that was that gap. And so, God was working on the church, but he was working on the church planner just as much. And so he formed my heart during that time. And so when we were able to kind of get our stride again, which would have really been more like 2022, it took a couple years to really get a consistency, which would have given us about 3 years now of just solid having church, being able to build. Our greatest growth and our greatest, I think, most rewarding season has been like the last 18 months to 2 years.
Wow.
And that's just been because of the people. I mean, God has sent people. And we are let me just clarify too, for any church planners that are listening, I want you to know, like, one of the greatest blessings is planting a church. And it's difficult because it's expensive, it's affluent, but we live in an area where it has a high move-in rate. And so we've had some really great, apostolic transplants that have come in, infused our church with some stability. And so I don't want to make it sound like, boy, we just got in there and every single person, I planted, watered, and, God gave the increase and discipled them. No, it is a cumulative effort of our home church that sent us with funds and team members all the way down to churches across this movement that have believed in Stello Church. And so, and all that let me just be honest with you, to numerically finally have broken the 100 barrier.
It's amazing. Yeah.
So I say that laughing, not because I make light of it, but my point is explosive growth. I'm putting that in air quotes if you're not watching, is us after 6 to 7 years just moving over the 100 mark. But it's been a healthy growth. It's been, like I said, God has formed all of us. And so that's probably too long of an answer, but that gives a little bit of context.
Yeah, again, and I appreciate just the honesty. Like sometimes, people project on us some ideas that are not true.
Sure.
And so in this, again, trying to establish people, move people in their faith journey, you come across a lot of things and you see a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
What is grabbing your attention now about where the church is, how the church relates to people? Where were people that come in, and I'm not talking about just transplants, and it could be them, to be clear. Just people that are trying to experience, they're feeling the pangs of spiritual hunger.
Yeah.
What has your attention right now?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think what lately has been just on my heart, on our hearts as a church is, and I think GPC does this well, is being a church where people can heal. Yes, we have to find Jesus and good theology and all of those foundational principles. So of course, everything we build is upon that firm foundation of apostolic truth. But let me just say is that's the starting point, not the finish line, right? Those are the foundational building blocks. And there's a lot of folks that are coming in right now, and man, they have been ravaged by everything we just talked about.
Yeah.
The reason why you could become codependent on any kind of technology. Well, who needs a codependency? It's the hurting. It's the broken.
Right.
And that's why, Jesus looked at the Pharisees and he said, who needs a physician? Not the whole,
Sick.
Not the healed. The
Right.
sick need a physician. And when I look right now, man, I get emotional just talking about it. People walking through the doors, God is wanting to do a deep healing in people's lives, in their marriages, in their families. And some of the greatest stories that we've been able to firsthand witness and be a part of have been people that have walked in, and there is just an openness in them and in the church that says, listen, and I'm not talking about a victim culture. I want to make it really clear. I'm not talking about, like nursing wounds of, well, oh, you got hurt by the church. Well, let's just stay there. Listen, there's legitimate hurts that happen, whether in the church or outside of the church. We absolutely accept those for what they are. And we, what you could say, we make the story feel valid, like you're validated.
Yeah.
But now there is healing that can take place, and to watch. That's what's grabbing my attention right now, is that every church is going to have to be a center of healing. Every church is going to have to be a church where people can ask difficult questions and not feel afraid that they're saying, hey, this is where I'm at. I don't know what to do with this. Some of our, like even right now, we've been in a series, we just came out of it, called You Asked For It. And you've heard of this series, but it's basically questions that the church has that they sent in, and our social media following that they've sent in. Bro, the questions that came in were so good. And
Give us one.
Well, so one of those questions, and it's kind of culminated last week, when we ended it, we actually ended it on tithing and offering. People had questions around giving, and some of the perspective on giving. Almost immediately, when you read the questions, you go, oh, the denominational take on giving, there's a prosperity culture that has tainted even the average apostolic person. Not just a prosperity culture, but then on the opposite side of the spectrum is people think that any form of giving that you teach is quote unquote legalistic. And so you're having all these questions come in about giving. And then as a pastor, I'm like, when I'm reading those questions, I'm not saying, oh, this is just head knowledge problem. I'm going, oh, there's hurt behind these questions.
Yeah.
There's people that feel like giving has become a carrot and a stick. That's this elusive, and you're going,
trust issue.
It's a trust issue,
for sure.
And you're going, oh, this is a heart issue. Which, by the way, that's exactly what Jesus told us again and again. Right. So that's just one example, but every example over that series of messages, every single time came down to the heart. And most of the time, the reason why the question was difficult is because the wound was deep. And when you start at a heart level, and then you move into the head knowledge, the biblical theology of it, man, when you match those two together, that's probably been one of the most rewarding seasons that we've seen at our church, because there's just been deep healing.
Yeah, so interesting. I just had a conversation last week with somebody that was really, just disenfranchised with the church because of this seed sowing, you give and give this prosperity message, right?
Sure.
When you give, you sow into the kingdom, God's going to make you blessed and all that. So I can see how that can be a real, and it damaged them, damaged them to the point that they walked away from the church for a while.
Yeah.
And they're coming here, and I'm thinking, I never thought that was the issue. I never thought that was the battle. Yeah. It's just amazing what people are facing as they come into the church.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hearing you're doing a series on it from the pulpit, right? But there's more to it than that, right? Yeah. It's not just a Sunday message that is they're not looking for just another that's kind of the launching pad that opens the door for where I think true healing happens, which is in conversations across. And you talked about this at camp meeting as well. As a matter of fact, I'd love for you to share a story about the young lady, the track star.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's the heart of all of this. That's the heart of this generation. I think that's where the healing is going to happen. So do you mind just kind of elaborate on that?
It was just a few months ago that we had a young lady walk into our church, and she represented probably the demographic, if you will, that we've been able to reach pretty consistently, which is this young adult, young family, kind of 20-something, 30-somethings that are kind of representative of our community and our church as it is. And so she walks through the doors. I didn't even see her. She's a first-time guest, and I'm ministering on the heart. I'm talking about how our internal, state of being externalizes. And it happened to be in that message that I was talking about holiness, but I was specifically talking about the Imago Dei. Okay, so the image of God, that we are made in the image of God, and that anything that we do with our physical body, whether it's something that we're not doing, like modesty, so we're going to make sure that we aren't showing an immodest appearance, or something that we're prohibiting ourselves from, such as tattooing our bodies. Now, I know there's a popular theological idea that all of these things are thrown out with Christian liberty, right? But we don't teach that. I literally don't believe that. When I read scripture, I don't see that Christian liberty says you can do whatever you want with your body.
Right.
I actually see the principle of modesty from the Old Testament to the New Testament as a powerful principle, but not one based in shame. Because the shame idea is that, oh, your body is gross, or your body is the problem, especially with ladies in a culture that is sexualized. Your body is actually the problem. Your body is the reason. Your physical body is the reason why maybe a man lusts, or the way that you garner likes and affection. Because you've seen the statistics on, if you show a certain amount of immodesty on social media, the number of likes exponentially goes up. So you've got a bunch of young ladies that are being taught that you can essentially use your physical body to garner affection. Well, then if they get the opposite pendulum swing when they come into the church, and what they hear is, no, you should be ashamed if you act that way, they actually start to believe that their body is the problem. It's the exact opposite. We are made in the image of God, including the physical body, which, by the way, the theology on the physical body is that this body will be what is redeemed. Remember, Jesus kept we don't know what we're going to be like, but we know we shall be like him. And Jesus kept the same physical body.
Wow.
I'm taking this physical body in obviously a glorified form with me to heaven because it is the Imago Dei.
Yep.
So when I'm modest, when I don't do certain things, when I respect it, even this is the point of gluttony or living with in physical fitness or whatever, it's because I respect this Imago Dei. And so I'm talking about this on a Sunday, and I'm ministering on this topic, and I'm saying, God loves you, and he's created you fearfully and wonderfully. And I happen to make the point in that message that excessive tattooing we can see this is not a religious take. There is a connection to declining mental health in excessive tattooing. And so I just kind of fleshed that out for a little bit under the banner that modesty and holiness is self-love in a healthy way. You're respecting what God has given you.
So good.
Then I go out into the lobby after service, and the first person I meet is this amazing young lady, and all over her arms are these, and I'll say it like this, beautiful tattoos, right?
Sure.
Like they were really
Artwork.
well done artwork. Truly, truly. Like I was like, wow, that's impressive. And I'm thinking, way to go, Dev. You missed it by a mile. Of all the days, you got tears start streaming down her face. And she says to me, this is what I've been looking for. I've been looking for a church. Oh, and ever since then, it's been several weeks, she has gotten connected to in life groups. She's got several friends. And then most recently, she has a 2-week gap where her apartment, the new apartment that she was going into and the one she was coming out of, she needed a place to stay. And so there was like 3 or 4 days where she asked, could I come and stay with you guys? And of course, proper boundaries. I know all that stuff is really important, but we were going to be out of town and it was just going to be a short overlap. And so we said, absolutely. My wife and I talked about it, and we said, absolutely, you can come stay with us. Well, it ended up not happening because her apartment timeline got switched around. But she texted us, me and my wife, and she said, hey, I'm not going to be staying with you guys because of X, Y, and Z, but I just want you to know I am so disappointed because I was so excited about just sitting in your living room and spending time with you guys and asking my Bible questions. And we said, hey, we totally understand. Come over anyway. Come over and talk to us. And the greatest stories have not been pulpit ones, although many of them have started in the pulpit. But the pulpit has to lead to the living room. The pulpit has to lead to the coffee shop table. The pulpit has to lead to us spending time with one another and actually bringing people in to our homes and into our lives.
What a powerful story right there. Just so relevant and so important. And thank you for being just transparent with that. Again, it's easy to act like it's all easy, but God takes these moments. And when you do it in a spirit of love and healing, like really, I'm reaching for you, people notice. And that's what our churches need.
Yeah.
Any last minute comments, any last thing you want to end with and share with us?
I just would follow up on that on that story that I just told, because that's one, but I think it's representative of so many stories. And I think the fallacy here could be that it might sound like, see, look what great work we're doing. Yeah. We really ministered to this young lady. Here's the funny thing about that is it's a lot like Jesus when he was with the woman at the well. And he is ministering to her needs. And you remember this story. They're in Samaria, if I'm not mistaken, to start with. The disciples are off getting lunch. And the fact of the matter is they don't want to be here ministering to these people of all people. There's a prejudice there. And the Bible says that Jesus is just ministering to this woman. And when they come back with lunch, they miss the whole ministry moment.
Yeah, for sure.
And they say, hey, we've got food. And Jesus gives this quote that we all have heard, which is, I've got food that you don't even know about. I am full. My life is full. You'd mentioned that I've had the opportunity, and I'm so thankful for it and humbled by it. And I don't know if it'll continue or won't, to minister across our movement. It is a huge honor. But I'm telling you, the most fulfilling thing that any seasoned member, pastor, preacher, you put whatever label you want on it. You want food that will fill you, is sit with people that are hungry for Jesus. She thinks that we're ministering to her. And I'm not saying that there's not an energy tap. I'm not saying that it's convenient. Yes, of course. But there is nothing more rewarding and fulfilling than being with these new ones and loving and reaching and being the one who gets to teach. And you want to talk about like getting a defensive church in a good way? If I'm the one sitting and I'm the one discipling, you start getting defensive over the new ones. And the culture of your church becomes safer and safer because now it fosters the journey, right? Like it fosters a place where the journey of this new one who's starting all the way back here in their discipleship journey, you're the one who's defensive of them. That's my disciple. That's she spends time in our living room. Y'all watch. She's learning. You give her time. She'll figure it out. That is it's more ministering to me than it is to her. And I'm sure she wouldn't even realize that.
Wow. Brother Akers, thank you so very much for sharing just what God's doing through you. It's always a privilege to have you here at GBC. You always, again, bless us and minister to us. And we're so grateful for the connection and appreciate your time on this podcast.
Thank you.
Again, our aim is to help those here at GBC. I know it spills over, but we want to be helpful. We want to put things in their spirit that help them grow spiritually. And again, you absolutely have helped us today. And so grateful for you.
Well, what an honor. You guys have an amazing church, and it's been such an honor to be here this weekend. So thank you.
We appreciate you. And so one thing we always do at the end is we share a verse of one of our volunteers. And so, Pastor, why don't you tell them who we have today?
Yeah, again, so grateful for all of our volunteers and so thankful for the capable, intelligent, skilled, gifted, anointed volunteers that we have. And so grateful for each and every one of them. We want to highlight them and just thank God for them. And so this one today, we're just so grateful for Alyssa House. What a great volunteer. It serves in a lot of capacities in our tech team, serves in our cafe and first impression team, and serves on our youth team. There's just so many different things that this incredible leader does. And so, Alyssa, we want to say thank you. Thank you for caring about our local church, the local church. Thank you for loving Jesus the way you love him. Thank you for being an example. Just always pouring in and doing things so well, and grateful for you. I know you don't get a lot of what I would call airtime, FaceTime, but man, what you do for so many ministries is just a blessing. And your favorite verse is found in 2 Timothy 1, verse number 7. And it says, God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And what a great verse to complement this conversation today. So Alyssa, thank you for all you do. We pray blessings upon you and so grateful for what God's doing through you.
Yeah, thank you, Alyssa. Devin, thank you for your time today. And thank you guys for listening to this episode of Between Sundays. We'll catch you next time.